Shannon Martin, tonight it's all or nothing for the Toronto Blue Jays after being shut out in Game 1.
I think the Jays are gonna take this one for sure.
Yeah, we just got to take it home.
We'll take you to the Rogers Centre live for all the excitement and nerves.
We're here to be their voice.
People in Toronto once again filling the streets in solidarity with protests underway in Iran. We'll take you there.
Too many Canadians are going without.
Hundreds of volunteers come together in person this Thanksgiving long weekend as visits to food banks reach crisis levels.
This is CBC Saturday News.
Thanks for joining us. The Toronto Blue Jays in action right now against Seattle for Game 2 of their American League Wildcard Series. It really is all or nothing for the Jays after losing yesterday. Let's get right to Greg Ross. He's live for us at Rogers Centre. I'm trying to read your face. I think you look happy, Greg.
Oh, Shannon, what a difference a day can make. I have to tell you, after yesterday's Game 1, there was some doom and gloom. There were some worried fans. The Jays found themselves trailing a very short 3-game series, 1-0. But the fans came back here for Game 2, ready to cheer, ready to see if the Blue Jays could get back in this series. Let's show you what's happened so far in Game 2 today. We'll take a look at some of the early highlights in this game. Kevin Gausman on the hill looking to keep the Jays alive in this series. After scoring 3 runs in the first yesterday, the Mariners look for another quick start today with 2 aboard, but Gausman gets Mitch Haniger swinging to end the threat. Gausman getting some defensive help from the Blue Jays as well. In the second, Adam Frazier hits a liner to short, and Bo Bichette will climb the ladder to make a spectacular catch. It remains scoreless. The Jays do open the scoring, though, in the home half of the second. Teoscar Hernandez knocks one into the bleachers in left, a 2-run blast. The first 2 runs of this series for the Blue Jays, they were up 2-0. They add to that in the bottom of the third. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. will single to left. Santiago Espinal is going to score from second. That made it 3-0 for the Jays. Move ahead to the bottom of the fourth. Hernandez at the dish again, and once again, he's going to find the seats in left. That's a solo shot, his second homer of the game. It was 4-0 for the Jays at that point, and I can tell you the Jays have added to that in a big way. They've actually added 4 runs in the 5th inning. They now lead this game 8-1 in complete control, Shannon, and I have to tell you, inside the Rogers Centre, the energy from the fans, just the difference that we saw yesterday when the Jays were not able to put any runs on the board, and then you look ahead to today and the Jays are not only putting runs on the board, they're getting a good pitching performance from Kevin Gausman, their starter. All around, things are going well for the Jays, and the energy, the loudness, the intimidation from the fans inside, when you think about the Seattle Mariners players, has been incredible. And if the Jays can keep this up, they'll force a Game 3, a deciding Game 3 here at the Rogers Centre tomorrow.
Okay, yes, we don't want to jinx it, but hopefully we'll be talking to you again tomorrow night. You know, just as your live shot was coming up just before 6, you could really hear just the thunderous energy from, like, out on the street of the fans.
Yeah, it's incredible what is happening around here. It's thunderous inside every time the Jays do anything. Let me give you just some perspective here. Robbie Ray, the starting pitcher for the Seattle Mariners, played for the Jays last season, won a Cy Young Award as a member of the Blue Jays last season. Now pitching against the Jays here in Game 2. And you every time the Jays were able to get a hit off him or a home run like Teoscar Hernandez, the fans would start chanting, "Robbie, Robbie." It was loud. It was thunderous. And it has to be intimidating for the opposing team just to feel that. And I could tell that the Blue Jays, the players in that dugout, are feeding off of that energy. And you look at that scoreboard, it certainly is helping this team. And if the fans come out in full force for Game 3 of this series, provided there is a Game 3, it could be good news for the Blue Jays.
Okay, let's go Blue Jays. Here we go. Thanks, Greg. We'll talk to you probably tomorrow, hopefully. Fingers crossed. In other news tonight, people are once again filling the streets in Toronto in solidarity with the ongoing protests underway in Iran. Just yesterday, the Canadian government announced new sanctions against the country, but as Dale Manukduk shows us, people today say it's not nearly enough.
I call each person standing here today my hero, and I am very proud to be amongst them.
Emotions were high as hundreds gathered at Queen's Park in Toronto today in support of the people of Iran demanding change from leadership.
We're here to be their voice. This is what they're asking us to do while they're doing the difficult work, for us to do the easy work here and just spread their word.
Since last month, protests have taken place around the world, including yesterday in Chile and Istanbul, and today in London, England. Thousands of people standing in solidarity with demonstrators in Iran over the death of a 22-year-old woman, Mahsa Amini.
I was arrested by the same so-called morality police. I was kind of beaten by the same so-called morality police. I was just lucky.
Tensions rose across much of Iran this week, including violent scenes of police clamping down on students at the Sharif University of Technology in Tehran, where dozens of students were arrested and many were injured.
They also rounded up anywhere between 40 and 150 students, taking them in white, unmarked vans to an undisclosed location. We do not know where they took them. We don't know what will become of them. And it's very difficult to know the death toll. It's very difficult to know where they were taken.
In addition to protesting Iranian leadership, people have also called on the Canadian government to take action by adding the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps to the country's terrorist list. Yesterday, the government referred to the IRGC as terrorists, but did not go as far as adding them to the list, instead announcing further sanctions preventing some from entering Canada.
This will make the top 50% of the IRGC leadership, the over 10,000 officers and senior members most responsible for this heinous state behavior.
Protesters in Toronto say it did not go far enough.
I mean, it's a great step, but I think they were very late to it. Like, we have to yell our hearts out. None of those people should be allowed to be in Canada. Their assets should be seized. They should be deported.
Organizers say they will protest as long as their people in Iran do. Another demonstration in downtown Toronto is scheduled for tomorrow. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
And we're taking you live now to Toronto City Hall, where there's a protest in support of the Hazara ethnic minority in Afghanistan. Just over a week ago, a suicide bomber struck an education center in Kabul, killing at least 19 people. The center is in a predominantly Hazara neighborhood, and most of those killed were teenage girls. Since then, rallies have been held in Afghanistan. In many parts of the world, Hazaras are mostly Shia Muslims. They are Afghanistan's third largest ethnic group, but have long faced persecution, including from the Taliban, who currently control the country. You can now cast a ballot in the upcoming municipal election. Advanced polls are now underway in some Ontario cities, but just because you can, will you? We sent Patrick Swadden to find out.
Toronto's municipal election is just over 2 weeks away. At the top of every voter's mind is an issue they think is most important. For some, transit.
I'm commuting to work. Right now, it's not a reliable resource.
For others, municipal services.
Garbage in the streets.
And for many, the big one.
Housing, affordable housing.
One would be affordable housing.
Well, I think affordable housing is a big one.
But the question is, will you vote? Advanced polling has been open in Toronto and other parts of the GTA since yesterday morning. Welcome news for some.
I like to get ahead of, the crowd that might be coming, and I think it's important to get out and, make your decision.
Mostly to avoid the lineup at the voting centers.
But not everybody wants to take advantage.
I will probably vote on Election Day.
For Denise Williams, it's not just the busyness of life. She says it hasn't really felt like an election this time around.
I think I've just started to see some signs up.
Williams wants to learn about the candidates and their platforms, but says it's been difficult.
I feel like there hasn't been a lot out there. I haven't seen a lot of campaigning. I know of two of the candidates.
One of those two candidates is the current mayor, John Tory.
We saw a record low turnout provincially, and that was very discouraging because it kind of looks like a lack of engagement in the democratic process, which is not a good thing.
Getting voters engaged isn't easy when 1/5 of elected municipal positions have already been won through acclamation, when only one candidate runs. For the actual races, some voters just want more clarity of the candidates' positions.
I mean, everyone's talking about it, but I really don't feel like I'm hearing the action of the strategy that's going to be put in place.
The provincial election in June only saw 43.5% of voters cast a ballot. Toronto's 2018 election wasn't any better at 41% voter turnout, though municipal elections tend to see much lower participation. Voters have until the end of next Friday to get their vote in by advance ballot. Patrick Swadden, CBC News, Toronto.
One of the other big issues this election is food security and the cost of just about everything going up. Tyler Cheese was at one of the country's largest food banks. He has more on the volunteers coming together to help and the calls for more support.
Around 200 volunteers sort food at Daily Bread's warehouse in Etobicoke. It's the first time since the pandemic began that the food bank has been able to host its annual Thanksgiving event.
It's wonderful to see how when you actually purchase items at the grocery store to give and kind of put in those bins, how they're sorted and how kind of meticulously it's done. So everybody who needs that food can get the variety of items that they might need for their households.
Some have even brought their whole families out to help.
Making sure we have food on the table, nutritious meals on the table, I think is extremely important for all families to make sure that they can continue to have a daily sustenance and a healthy lifestyle.
Staple products like pasta sauce, peanut butter, and cereal are packed away, destined to go to those facing food insecurity. Something Daily Bread's CEO says has been an increasing problem in the past 6 months.
Way too many Canadians are going without.
Last month, Daily Bread logged over 180,000 client visits. That's triple the number of visits seen before the pandemic. Hetherington says the soaring cost of food due to inflation has more people turning to food banks.
A turkey meal has gone up by 12% this Thanksgiving compared to the previous one. There are too many Torontonians who can't afford that because their incomes are not keeping pace with inflation.
John Tory, who is running for re-election as Toronto's mayor, is among those volunteering. He says the way to address the rise in food insecurity is to get the economy back on its feet.
You know, our job is to help all of the governments and business and everybody to get through these uncertain times and use our experience to do that. But in the meantime, there are people who need help.
Daily Bread encourages the public to get involved beyond Thanksgiving by volunteering, donating, and advocating for social policies to end poverty. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
You heard it in Tyler's story there. The cost of a turkey dinner is up this Thanksgiving. Partly to blame is a shortage after an outbreak of avian flu. Peggy Lamb is in Winnipeg and has more on some of the challenges some shoppers are facing.
In Winnipeg, people are having to settle for frozen turkey instead of fresh. Kim Klatt couldn't find a fresh turkey at a local grocer, so he headed to Superstore.
100 of us in there looking for, one thing, or the turkey, or chickens. They started talking chickens, and then it was like, man, one day somebody's going to say, no, that's mine, no, that's mine. You could just see them, but yeah, there were just tons of people there.
In the end, Klatt had to settle for 3 chickens.
Disappointed, really, because we figured, we always have turkeys.
Others prefer the frozen turkey.
Okay, we were looking around. We went to Costco. There's no turkey. And then we actually found the third one in here, so we grab it. But it's expensive, though, because it's already $50 for this small one.
Manitoba turkey producers say the culprit for the fresh turkey shortage is the avian flu. This year, it's estimated that 191,000 birds have been infected just in Manitoba. And when a case is discovered, the whole flock has to be destroyed.
We are actually working our best right now to ensure that there won't be any shortages in either fresh or frozen for Christmas. So our producers and farmers are working on their flocks to ensure that there is that availability.
Some local butchers say they only received 20% of their order for fresh turkey this year. This co-owner of the meat company says more people are turning to other meats for Thanksgiving.
People are buying roasts, they're doing briskets on the smoker, pork butts on the smoker, so a little bit different from the norm.
Manitoba turkey producers say there isn't much of a difference between a fresh or frozen turkey. They're both generally grade A. A small distinction is the time it takes for the birds to thaw. Peggy Lamb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Sophia's here in her Blue Jays blue, loving that.
I'm gonna wear it until they win. I'm knocking on wood and had my fingers crossed there.
Yes,
folks.
yes. And we need our layers today, right? Like,
yeah, sweater weather.
Yeah, it's chilly.
This Thanksgiving weekend will not be had on the patio, but folks, it is still gorgeous and there's some real light at the end of the tunnel. And I gotta tell you, I spent some time, Shannon, this week up in cottage country, and everybody anecdotally was talking about how much more beautiful and vibrant the fall colors are this year compared to past years. And there's some science behind this, folks. We haven't had the big fall storms and even really a lot of wind compared to this time in previous years when we've had a ton of sunshine as well. So absolute peak for the fall colors is this next week. Go out and enjoy them. If you are up in cottage country into the overnight period, not a great night for stargazing, some cloud cover and even some patchy frost in place for any of you kind of north end of the GTA. Sunday, a few degrees below seasonal for many of you, and I'm going to show you this pesky trough that we will be under over the next couple of days. Could bring some sparse showers anywhere along the Georgian Bay and up even along the 400 and the north end of the GTA for Sunday, but bigger risk for showers will be Sunday overnight into Monday. Coming up in the long range, I'll tell you more about when we're rid of this pesky trough and when we maybe even get back to the elusive 20-degree weather. Shannon.
Ooh, in October, we'll take it.
Any
Thanks,
day.
Sophia. A new exhibit is opening this weekend at the Aga Khan Museum, highlighting Afghanistan's deep cultural richness. It's called Afghanistan, My Love, and features the work of Afghan-Canadian artist Shahir Zazeh. His art uses patterns and designs, exploring the layers of his cultural identity. A selection of digital works and carpets showcase his ideas of what it means to be an Afghan away from their homeland. All of his carpets are made through a collaboration with Afghan women weavers. The exhibit runs through next spring. And we'll be right back.
Whenever you pitch stories to mainstream television, it's always about, well, this is catered to all Canadians. So part of me is always like, why does everything have to cater to everyone? Why can't we share different, diverse stories that other people might be interested in? If you're always feeding the audience the same content, how could they know what's different?
You're watching a clip from a new short documentary called Hodan's Story. It follows the life and journey of Hodan Nailea. She was well loved here in Toronto. The mom of two was killed when she returned to her birth country of Somalia. Now her longtime friend has put together a new film in her honor. Welcome back. An end-of-season market celebrating Falling Leaves Moon was held at the Fort York National Historic Site today.
We did this purposefully to kind of take over Thanksgiving weekend and yeah, just introduce Toronto to our food and our group, Dash Mwamba Mazajan. We are an Indigenous collective of aunties that started cooking to support our community, so we use the catering and the food as a way to fund our programs with the seniors.
Fort York has been the site of weekly Indigenous markets up for sale, lots of goods and food. There was also music and dance performances. The market being held on Thanksgiving is important for many Indigenous folks who are choosing to be with family there rather than celebrating a holiday rooted in colonialism. Sophia's back now talking about the 20s, maybe, coming up later.
We got to get through some chilly sweater weather first, which is quite seasonable and fashionable for Thanksgiving turkey weekend. We have current conditions a couple degrees below seasonal. Overnight, we talked a little bit about that patchy frost chance in the south, but look at the temperatures as I contrast this to the north, feeling into the minus mid-digits, minus single digits rather. Some woke up in cottage country, Huntsville, Parry Sound, around the Georgian Bay shores to flurries this morning, but it could be worse, folks. We could have those ferocious fall storms that October is known for. Look at Sunday morning, more of that same cold vibe. -5 in Bancroft will beat out for the cold award pretty much every other province except for really far up above the Arctic Circle at the North Pole. So very, very chilly vibes still with us for the next few days. And this is why. It's that pesky upper trough we've been talking about. All that cool polar air is really pooling right above us. It's making for those single-digit high temperatures and some light snow chance, especially at those higher elevations like that Bancroft temperature. Sunday, couple degrees below seasonal, cloudy day, few sparse showers showers possible. Rinse and repeat day for Monday. Slight warming trend. And then Tuesday, though, is that day you were looking for, Shannon. The possibility of some 20s, especially the further south and west you go, away from the cooler lakes. Get out and enjoy and charge up those proverbial solar panels while you can, because Wednesday into Thursday, the next front comes and we're back down to a more fall-like seasonable pattern. But I'll talk a little bit more tomorrow about that contrast. They're dealing with 15-degree warmth, rather, in the west, while we're, basking in the colder digits.
Okay, thanks so much, Sophia. We'll see you again tomorrow night.
See you then.
That is our show for you tonight, but we've got to go back to Rogers Center for a live look